Hello and welcome to Radiance Revealed, the podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jen Haley. I'm a board-certified dermatologist, fitness enthusiast, nutrition expert, and global explorer that over the years has uncovered that your skin is a true representation of your internal health. Each week, we will chat with leading health, wellness, and even spiritual experts who will reveal secrets to true health and vitality. My goal is to help you change small habits to give you the power to create a more balanced, aligned, and elevated version of yourself. Now let's dive in. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Adrienne Everheart, our favorite feminine energy expert. She was on podcast episode number 66. It's been about 2 years. And your episode was so popular, I had to have you back to discuss more things. And now that we're heading into spring, I know you have a course, a feminine energy reset course. So we're going to touch on that. We're going to talk about all things feminine energy and how to enhance our relationships to be our most radiant self. So welcome back, Adrienne.
Thank you for having me, Jen. It's always a pleasure to be on your podcast.
Yeah, you're a friend. You're a friend now. And I think it's so important to have a community of women where we want each other to rise, and that's how I feel with you. And I have a different set of knowledge than you do. And that's why I want to bring you into my audience, because I think it's so important that we nurture the relationships around us and we have healthy relationships and we show up authentically in our most natural state of being. And as someone who was in the military, as a doctor, in a marriage for 18 years where I lived in my masculine energy, I was very unsettled. So when I learned about your work and I studied your work, I was automatically drawn to you, which is why personally I've wanted to go through this journey and I felt the need to share this with other people. So can you describe just a little bit about the work that you do and feminine and masculine energy in its divine way?
Well, everything that you're touching on that your audience wants to hear, that you've learned about, that I teach women about every day, including myself. I refer to myself as I was the biggest ball buster there ever was. And I can still turn it on, when I need to. But that is the gift of feminine energy. Feminine energy is this soft, relaxed way of receiving life, of leaning back and letting it unfold, and finding your authentic voice, your true feelings. That way, we're in control and charge of other people around us, even situations which can be exhausting. If you just think of managing someone, helping someone, trying to figure out what someone's doing or saying, it can be very exhausting. And feminine energy is a much more relaxed state of being. And just like you said, our relationships, our connection to everyone, even your pets. It's amazing what can happen when you really allow that connection to your natural feminine energy. You find it, you get curious about it, and you start focusing in on it. Magical things start happening in your world really effortlessly. So that's what I help women learn how to connect with their feminine energy, also be aware of their masculine energy, and just knowing the difference between the two.
So it's not like masculine is bad. We have masculine and there's times we need to be in masculine. And then there's times we need to be in feminine. How do we know how to navigate this world? Because I wouldn't be connecting with you today if I didn't reach out and go towards you, right? So there's a time where it's more natural to be in a more masculine state.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a time to embrace the feminine. So just
Yeah.
break it down.
Sure. So I'll start off with one of my favorite topics, which is cupcakes. I have a weakness for cupcakes. And recently we had gone to an event and there was a cupcake tower in the room, a tower of cupcakes. I walked in and I just it was like a magnetic pull, me in that tower of cupcakes. I wanted to look at them. I wanted to be near them. I wanted to just be surrounded. So I pursued, I followed my intuition, my senses, my bliss. I was seeking that out. Was that masculine or feminine? So we have to break it down in terms of what was I feeling? I
Mhm.
was feeling interest and curiosity. And I was also a little bit like, ooh, what do these taste like? What do they look like? And I'm pursuing what I'm curious about in a very authentic way. That's feminine energy, is that you're going after what feels good, what feels in alignment with you and your body. When it comes to a man, if a man rejects us or a man is slow to respond or he doesn't say what we want him to say, he doesn't do what we want him to do, now we step into masculine energy, which is, I want you to say this to me. I want you to do this to me. I want you to be here for me. So now we're actually controlling and manipulating an outcome instead of what does this really feel like when he doesn't call? What does it feel like that I'm sharing my feelings and he doesn't really show up? Like, what do I feel? Can I sit with that feeling? How can I find who I am in this feeling? And I can give you much more examples on those. But I love the idea that, feminine energy woman, she sees something, she likes it, she goes towards it. If there's a man you're interested in, I go back to 18th century, literary examples of you drop the handkerchief. That's right. You let him know I'm interested. Then you have to lean back and let it unfold. I've gone to the cupcake table. I maybe take a cupcake out, look at it. Is it worth it? The calories, the nutrition, the whatever. Am I in alignment with this? Uh, will this work for me versus I'm showing up and I'm being present. And so you begin to balance those things in your mind.
Okay, I love this so much. So actually now I'm thinking I reach out to you and that's actually feminine energy because I feel your energy from afar and I had to bring it into my senses. So it's not really masculine energy as much as it is just
No,
being in your bliss. You know, some
yeah, masculine would be, and I've had people do this where they say, I want you to come on my podcast and I want you to talk about this. And I want you to talk about that. And they have a very specific, and then sometimes I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea. I'll love to speak on this topic. But they are coming to me with a very direct idea of how it should go. And feminine energy naturally just morphs and creates its own thing. But I did one time have a lady stop the podcast and go, well, I really wanted you to talk about this other thing. And I'm like, well, we need to redirect this differently. And it ended up being a podcast that felt very edited, very choppy, and very put together because it was missing that natural feminine energy flow.
right? Okay, this is so amazing because I've been in both worlds and life is so much happier and free flowing when you're just receiving and exploring and sensing and even with skincare, like we were talking about skincare with you a while ago, and I do it all the time. And I tell people, like, you can get advice, but at the end of the day, you have to check in with yourself and be attuned to
Yeah.
yourself and what works for you. And that's
Mhm.
what feminine energy is. It's not, okay, the instructions say I need to do this exactly. No, that's a guideline, but what works for you?
Mhm.
Does
Mhm.
it burn you? Does it feel good?
Mhm.
And go that way. Okay, so you dived into it a little bit, but this masculine energy control, and I think a lot of it has to do with patience. So whether you're in the dating world and single or whether you're in a relationship, like what is this masculine energy control and how do we rein it in and, you know, become the receptacle?
Well, there are so many things I can say about dating. There are so many pitfalls that can happen to a woman in terms of dating apps, your energy around the dating app, your energy and judgments and opinions of a man's profile, how he pursues you in the first little bit of contact you have with him, how the first date goes. He may say one word and you're just like, oh, I can't be with someone who has said that word. I don't want to, there's so many blocks. There are so many reasons to say no during dating. And this is the greatest way that masculine energy and fear step in and they get in the way of your natural, true, authentic self, which is curious, very open, very a desire to receive and see what happens. I'm just going to see what happens. How many times have you ever been out shopping with a friend and you've said, let's just pop in this store and just see what they have. Let's just be curious and see what they have. Or I'm going to go here and I just want to walk in this place. I've never been in here before. I'm just curious. That's the same type of curiosity you want to have with men and dating profiles. And understand that a written word and even a photo of a man is actually not even real until you meet him and you have at least one or two dates with him. So, right there, we start with I'm going to let go of judgments and opinions and fears. I had a man early on in my dating life send me a photo. I thought he was just okay. He actually ended up in my spam folder because he didn't match these criteria I had for myself. And I had agreed to meet him. And I was like, what the heck? I'll go meet this guy. It turned out to be the man I married. And I think about that, how he didn't meet my criteria. He automatically went to my spam box. And I'm like, how dare someone write me and not be in my criteria? I'm going to go see who this is and I'm going to give them a talking to. And I opened up and I found this very authentic email he had written me. And then his photo I thought was just okay. I mean, he wasn't what I went for. There was nothing about him, but I was like, hey, he's a warm body. It's someone to go do something with, go have, a drink or a meal with and chat with. I'm always up for something like that. So I did have that sort of curiosity to me. But then I met him and I was just like, my goodness, I can't believe I was so ready to throw away. So I think this is what I call the non-applicable man. It's a man that you wouldn't normally be drawn to. A lot of my clients say, well, his photo, it looks like he's gained about 20 pounds, or I read that he's currently still living with his parents, or he looks good on paper, but I met him and there's just no chemistry. And there's no chemistry because you're actually not looking for chemistry. You're not seeking chemistry. You're just trying, you can't possibly know if you want to spend the rest of your life with someone after going on 3 to 5 dates with them. It's impossible to know. But you can have something trigger you to where you say, I never want to see that person again. I'm not going to. And so we have to figure out, is that fear? Is it a judgment? Is it masculine energy stepping in the way and protecting you? Or are you possibly missing out on a really wonderful connection you could be having with someone and be curious instead? So my theory is, as long as the man is showing up, as long as he's pursuing you and his pursuit feels good and genuine, not like his hands are all over you and he's trying to put his tongue down your throat or anything like that, but he's pursuing you. So with the man who became my husband, I was just like, about him, just meh. He kept bringing Thai food over to my house. He kept calling me and wanting to walk my dogs with me. He wanted to help me with a window project I was doing in my house. I mean, he just kept showing up and he grew on me. And I really believe that's the love we're seeking. We're seeking that consistency where they find their way into you instead of here's my checklist or here's my vibe or here's the chemistry. That's what we're really hoping to connect with, is that different type of authentic feeling.
I love that so much. I haven't heard that part of your story with Jeff. Okay, I often think about this as well because I used to do that where I'm like, "Oh, I don't like facial hair," or, "Oh, you have these strict things," and it's almost an excuse to it's fear, right? It's fear, almost fear of connection, and I think that the best gifts in life show up in a way that we don't expect them to, right? And, okay, I wanna go back to chemistry. What is chemistry? Your theory. What's your theory of chemistry?
Ultimately, I believe chemistry, this is a little gross, a lot to do with our parents.
Yeah.
If you meet someone and you're attracted to them and you're drawn to them, there is usually unfinished business or something about a parent that's very familiar to you. And you want to heal that. And that's why the chemistry, the sex is so hot and you can't get enough and they're hot and cold with you. And you begin to see how your relationships with your parents. So if you really want to have a very strong, consistent, and loving relationship with someone, seek out someone who is completely unfamiliar. There is nothing familiar about them. Now, I'm basing this on kind of two different schools of thought, and then also my own experience, my experience with like thousands of clients I've worked with over the years. John Gottman did a lot of research in this as well. And then also, there's a lot of thought behind what really attracts us to a person, that familiarity. There's so many theories and science to back this up. But all you have to do is look back on any relationship you've had in the past, and you'll begin to see a thread. You'll begin to see some sort of common thing that kept showing up. For me, it was mental illness. If a guy had mental illness, he was interesting to me. He was unpredictable. He was all, what I call tens and zeros. But when we were in the 10 area and we were walking on the moon together, and it's amazing and it's out of this world, it was a very unnatural high. But then we would drop down and have the zeros where I wouldn't hear from him for 2 weeks, or he'd be in some sort of depressive slump. And I really need to define what I call nice, boring love. I know I'm really selling it here, but nice, boring love, it feels boring because we're used to tens and zeros. But predictable, comfortable love is not full of tens and zeros. You're going to have highs and lows. You're going to expand and contract as any relationship does, but there should be almost like a neutralness to the relationship. That's what you're seeking, not chemistry, which is like, oh, it's off the roof and then it's back down, and then it's off the roof and it's back down.
It becomes like a drug. I totally can relate to this, and I know that science that says, how your parents showed up, you want to relive that with a different ending, but we don't get different endings, right? And for me, I had very unpredictable parents who weren't all really available, so that's what I would attract is the unavailable man who was very unpredictable, and it would make me anxious and avoidant and anxious, and it was a roller coaster ride. And
Hmm.
I've done a lot of work, thanks to some of the stuff I've learned from you and other people I've worked with, to realize that healthy, stable, consistent, reliable, dependable is sexy. That's attractive.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yes.
endearing, and there's a warmth here that then travels down
Yeah.
because I think there's, like, this reprogramming and this retraining we have to do in order to honor a healthy relationship
Mhm.
because it's gonna be the best for us too, so we could keep showing up this way, right?
I love that it's a retraining, a relearning. And then we also have the flip side of where we overtrain, we overlearn. And the guy that's otherwise been predictable, he's now behaving like a human, and he's late. Something came up, he has to be with his daughters, and then you're like, "That's it.
Mm.
That's it. He's not being consistent anymore." And so we wanna just be able to self-correct. And that's the thing I love about feminine energy is that you are willing to let a person be imperfect. You're understanding that you are not perfect. You're going to expand and contract. I mean, how many of us, when it's our time of the month or we're having a really stressful day, we're snippy, we're rude, we snap at our partners, we have unrealistic expectation, and the guy will be like, what did I say? Like, what did I do? And the guy will hang in there with you, or you'll cry in his arms and he'll hold you, and while you just, talk for an hour. And men can sometimes really hang in there with you during these times. I personally would have a very difficult time doing that, even with a good girlfriend or someone. It gets very uncomfortable for me, but men can hang in there with us. So we have to be willing to hang in with them when they behave like men. When they get mad and the car doesn't start and they're slamming the hood of the car, or they're leaving their dirty boots laying around somewhere, or they're easily angry because something at work is not going well. So we have to be able to hang in with them because they can hang in there with us. And it's really about honoring each other's space and energy and how we respond to stress, and having that safe place we can go back to and reconnect with each other. How that's how you show up in the relationship and communicate. It has a lot to do with that.
Right? That's what I love about your work is you not only set people up to attract the right relationships, it's also how do you keep the right relationships.
Yeah.
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 Okay, you had a quote, "If you really want to get to know someone, tell them no." Tell me about
Yeah.
that.
So, this is the best and fastest way to get to know someone. Make sure it's an authentic no. Make sure you really mean it. And I know we're going to talk more about boundaries because a lot of women here lean back and let it unfold. And they're like, sounds like I'm about to be a doormat. And I'm like, okay, we have boundaries though. Boundaries is a great word, but you have to find what it means for you personally. So when you tell a man no, make sure your no is authentic and real. You're not just testing him. I tell my husband no all the time. And I'll tell you, almost every time it pisses him off. People don't like boundaries. It ruffles their feathers because it's like, I'm going along here on this straight line and you're telling me no. Why? Why are you suddenly stopping the flow of what this is? What I want to be. So deep down inside, we're all selfish creatures and we're wanting it our way. You
Mhm,
know, we then have a higher self that's supposed to step in and say, well, the lady can make up her own mind about this. She can change her mind. She can do what she wants to do. Go same way with the guy. When the guy says no, how do you respond to his no? When your parents say no, or a friend is hinting around at the word no, that ability to understand someone's telling me no, and I am also able to tell someone no about that. So, for example, my husband, I tell him no, he gets ticked off for a minute. I know this about him. He doesn't like certain boundaries that I have. And that's where I'm like, okay, my partner is now triggered. My partner is now experiencing something. Then how do I respond to that? Do I train them to respond perfectly to every time I say no? Of course not. But how do I respond to his, what do you mean you're not going to go with me to this party? I feel. That's when you go back to I feel. Well, I'm just feeling tired. I'm feeling insecure. I'm feeling like I need my own space right now, some breathing room just for myself. And that's when you get into that feeling body. That's actually what a man understands better than anything. So let's even use sex as an example. Let's say a guy is just really pushing you and putting his hands all over you, trying to take off parts of your clothes, and you're saying no and no, but you keep kissing him, you keep making out with him, you keep the party going. So you're sending him a lot of mixed, you're saying no. But when you can say, "Woo, I need to stand up. I feel like I need to take a break. I'm feeling really overheated. I want to go for a walk around the block. I don't feel comfortable doing this. I'm feeling a little scared right now." So now we're going into a different place other than just no.
mhm,
We're going into I feel. And I feel makes so much more sense than just no. No should be a signal for all of us to stop dead in our tracks. But it so often isn't. Humans are, we want it our way. We're going to negotiate. And I do the same thing. I'll ask my husband, like, let's go to the gym and then let's go swim. He'll go, no, I don't want to do that. And I'll go, well, why not? Here's all the reasons it makes sense. So we're always going to try and get our way. And then a relationship is about negotiating. It is about kind of seeing both sides, but also about like, okay, you don't want to go to the gym. You don't want to go to the gym. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's good practice so I was online dating for a few months, and I kept saying, "This is great practice for me to communicate better, to express my standards, and to express my boundaries," and it does come down to feeling and checking in with how you actually feel because I think as women, we're often trained at a young age not to really honor ourselves and our own feelings and to live in this should world of like, how should we be? Oh, nice girls don't act that way, or you should do this, or you shouldn't do this. And it's like, whoa, how do I even feel about all of this?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, it's very difficult, especially if, we were raised if a man asks you a question, you answer it, or you feel so intimidated that you don't know to do anything else but answer it, or do what you think will keep everyone happy or keep the peace or what have you. And there's a way you can actually keep the peace. And if you don't, you're losing some dead weight in the process.
Mhm.
If you're with someone who can't honor your boundaries, can't accept your no, or you're too scared to tell someone how you really feel, that's where I really help women in a deeper, more meaningful way, because behind that fear, there's another part of you that's saying, we can't do that. We can't show up authentically. They're going to reject us. They're not going to like, or we're going to appear masculine or what have you. And then there is a time and a place where know, I'm saving my life right now. I'm protecting something. I'm drawing a firm line in the sand. This is not going to happen. I was recently working with, I had two different clients who both were approached with prenums. And I was like, and the prenums were horrible. It didn't help the woman at all. And I said, I want you to get used to saying this sentence. Only a crazy person would sign that prenup. And embody what that feels like. You may not say that to your guy, but you have to begin to live in this place of like, I know this doesn't feel right because I'm having all of this chatter, internal chatter. I'm having mental conflict. I know this doesn't feel right for me. Okay, so what do I feel in my body? And that takes some time alone. That takes some silence, because as soon as we're up in that world of mental chatter, you lose that ability to connect with your higher self, your feminine energy. Um, I can share a quick little tip on how to really do that.
Yes.
If you want to maybe even do it with me, but
I'll do it with you.
okay. Well, as with everything, breathing is an important part. And I always breathe in through my nose and out through my mouth. And I just take a couple of nose and out through your mouth. And as you settle into your body, you can do something like kind of lightly tap the tops of your thighs and just see if you can tell that one leg feels a little different from the other and what that feels like. And so you're in your body now. You can kind of pinch the back of your arm on each side. All right. And then roll your shoulders and just notice what you're feeling in your body. And then this is my favorite one, which is washing machine. And this is great for your central nervous system, where you hold your arms up and you just kind of like you're doing the twist.
It's so good.
Yeah. And so we're getting back into our body. And then we're slowing down the mental chatter. And now we can find out who you are. And here's the next step with that. So I want you to, Jen, or anyone who's listening to this, I want you to just look around and notice one thing you have never really taken the time to notice or see. And just take a moment, just look around your room and notice something that you haven't seen before. And just tell me when you've noticed the thing you've never seen before.
I'm looking at the texture of the couch, like all the details of the texture and then how the light's hitting it. And I see a lot of really beautiful tones and texture of, even though it's one color, it looks like many.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's also very artsy. Like that's very artistic. So we have two different things happening now. We have my brain is focused on something new. I don't have to have tunnel vision. I don't have to be in fight or flight. I can relax and actually focus on something. The second thing we're having is a little bit of a calling for tones and textures, which sounds like to me, you might want to sit down with your colored pencils or your sketchbook a little bit more. Is that true?
Oh, I love doing that. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I'm hearing that. So now that we're focused on one thing, we can get into our authentic body. We're slowing down that chatter. And then you'll notice the chatter kind of pop up again. And then as soon as it does, say just focus on one thing. Like I just noticed on my computer there's like a little circle on top of a circle. I have no idea what it means. So I'm focused on something, and then just ask yourself, like, what am I feeling in my body right now? What am I feeling my toes? What am I feeling my feet, my legs, my knees, my hips, my lower back? What am I feeling? And even if you're feeling a little pain in your back or your neck or your shoulders, say, hey, I hear you. I hear that you're feeling something. You're feeling some pain, some tightness. Send it a little love, a little care, and see what happens. So we're going from a I'm thinking this based on intellectual, logical, to what am I actually feeling? And you may find, oh, I'm actually feeling a little hungry, or or my hands are a little cold. My fingertips are cold, and I'm not sure why, but you're feeling.
Mm.
You see, you're feeling. And the more that you can just take a few minutes out of your day and practice that, the better you'll be at getting in your body and authentically aligning with what you feel. Now, this last part, this is the key to all of this. Why am I saying the words I'm about to say? What is the outcome I'm hoping will happen? What agenda am I pushing by asking this question or making this statement? It's a question. If you really want to do a deep dive into feminine energy, ask yourself when you're with your guy or texting him as much as you can, why am I about to say this? What am I hoping will happen by saying this? So let's say I finish this podcast with you and I ask my husband, I say, hey, are you hungry? Like, why am I asking him, hey, are you hungry? It's because I'm hungry. Or if I say, hey, do you feel like going out and getting a bite? Why am I asking that? Because I feel like going out. It's just that one of those days. Let's go out and get something to eat instead of cooking at home. So, what if I came to him instead and said, oh, I'm really hungry. It would feel so good to go grab a bite to eat. What do you think? So, you see how we're
Ah,
coming from a different place. Yeah.
yeah, it comes across very differently. I think a man would receive the second one better.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just a great place, like you were saying, in dating. This is practice, it's ongoing practice. So eventually you'll catch yourself one day just going, I feel, and it's coming out of nowhere. You don't even know you're doing it. You're in your body. And you keep that momentum going.
I think you said something really important earlier where you were saying that everything that you say is not gonna resonate with anyone, so don't try to get or with everyone, so don't try to get their approval. Like, I look at relationships, for instance, as, like, ice cream flavors. So, just because I might like mint chocolate chip, it doesn't mean vanilla is bad, or chocolate is bad, or Rocky Road is bad. That's somebody else's favorite flavor, and I think so often we want to get approval from everyone as opposed to showing up with who we are and wanting to attract the vibrational equivalent that works for us. What do you think about that?
Yeah. um, I think it's human nature to want to seek approval and to feel like we're with our tribe and we're with our people. It's just that in this world, we have so many choices and options, and it's so unlimited that it would be impossible. And that's why we have so much letdown and discouragement and disappointment, because the amounts of outcomes are just unlimited. I'll give you an example. My husband, I can feel strongly about something. Like, feel like this cashier was rude to me, or this person, we were speaking to, they were professional, but they were being incredibly vague. And my husband, even though he loves me, even though he was there with me through it all, he witnessed it all with his eyes, for some reason, he will be the devil's advocate.
Mm.
And I want him on my side. That cashier was rude to me. Yes, she was. What's her problem? Right. But instead he goes, well, she probably just didn't like her job, and she probably just didn't understand you. And so he'll take that route. Or why did they let us down? I'm so frustrated. Well, I mean, you can't control people and outcome, Adrienne. It's up to them to make so he'll come in as devil's advocate or this resource instead of aligning with me. So as much as you can with your partner, when you're figuring out what mood they're in, whether they're an adult, which is totally fact-based, they're in child, which is kind of playful. It can even be like a scared child, or they're in this other wounded, fearful place. So you're going down the highway, somebody cuts you off and you scream, but your guy's driving the car and he goes, "Why'd you scream? Everything's fine." Right? Right. So he's an adult, you're in kind of fearful child. And there's nothing wrong with it, but they clash in that moment. So that desire to have someone to validate us, to meet us at the same place, it's not going to always happen because we're in those different ego states at different times. But if your guy's an adult and you're a wounded child and you go scared, someone just cut me off. Oh my goodness, I felt really scared. I just need to take a few breaths. That person, that car really, really scared me. You then might even imagine your guy going, "Well, I'm driving. I know what I'm doing. I got this." And so he's an adult and you can go back, or he's in this healthy parent place, which is a lot like adult. And you can begin to align with that and say, "Oh, well, I feel so safe when I'm with you. Thank you for driving so safely and carefully." So that's kind of like a long way to answer that alignment is that when you're feeling out of alignment, you're absolutely in different ego states. You're coming from different places and
Mm.
needing different validations.
I totally get that in relationships. I'm thinking more with dating. So my experience when I was single is more I had interactions with people. It was very clear on my profile. I was looking for a long-term committed partnership, monogamous leading to marriage. I put
Mhm.
it all on there
Yeah.
because
Okay.
I want to repel people who don't want that. I don't want to waste the energy. And I'm on the phone with a man a few months ago, and he's telling me, "Well, I'm really busy with work and I've got this going on with my mother and blah 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 blah, and I'm not really ready for a relationship." And we were talking an hour and a half, and then he decides to tell me that.
Mhm.
And I said, "Thank you so much for letting me know that we're not in the same place, and I wish you well." And he says, "Well, we could still keep talking." And I said, "Well, I am looking for my forever partner. And the more energy I put into this relationship with you, the less I will be putting into a relationship."
Right?
So where's the feminine and the masculine going on there? And how could I have worded that differently?
Oh boy, Jen. Okay. So,
It'd be hard, Adrian, because we've all, we're constantly a work in progress.
okay. So you really want to be coached. You're okay if I coach with you for a
Do it.
moment
Yeah, do it
on
because
this.
if I do this, I know other women are doing this. So yeah, go for it. I have nothing to be ashamed of here.
So that sentence you have on your profile, take that and put it inside of your heart.
Mhm.
Put it inside of your heart with your values, your core requirements, your core desires. You know that that is what you want. Meanwhile, the guy doesn't know that that's what he wants. And how could he? He hasn't even met you yet. He's only spoken on the phone with you. And again, it takes a lot of dates to know if we're on the same page. So, my husband worked cat rescue for years with his previous partner. And he said it never failed. We'd show up and the family wanted to adopt a cat, and the dad was like grumbling about the cat. And then we check in 30 days later, and guess who loves the cat? The dad. The dad is all about the cat now. So this is masculine energy. Masculine energy says, you know, I don't want any extra responsibility. I don't want any extra mouth to feed. I don't want to commit to anything because that's how I get trapped. So masculine energy is very fearful of being a trapped animal in a cage. So I would take that off of my profile personally and put it more into your words and your actions when you're dating. And I would give it on a first date, you can let a man know, like, yeah, he says, "What are you looking for?" And I go, "Well, I want to be a wife one day. I want to be married again one day. It is something I really want." He goes, "Yeah, yeah, okay, okay. So, like, right now?" And you can joke like, "Oh, is that a proposal? I don't even know you yet." You can have fun with it. Or if it scares him off and he goes, "Yeah, I'm really, I just, I just want to date. My divorce has just been a year ago. I'm not really looking for anything serious." Well, okay. You can keep dating him though and have him as what I call one of your quantum five. You are putting energy into it, but not much. You're letting him pursue you. If he wants to get to know you, take you out to dinner, have a nice time with you. It's practice for you. It's therapy for you. And then you can see around date, 5 or 6, things are heating up and warming up. He's ready to hop into bed with you. And you can say, I would love to. But if you are this way, truly say it. If I have sex with someone, I get attached. I'll catch feelings and I'll get attached. And I don't really know where we're going, but I truly love the companionship and I like how this feels. So then we're at a new place. We're at this vulnerable place with this man. And let's say this particular man is like, uh-oh, warning lights going off. Are you one of those girls that you don't have sex with someone until you get married? Well, I don't know that I am. I just know right now I feel like I really like you. I'm spending wonderful time with you and this feels really good and I don't know if we're on the same page. So let's say the guy says, "Yeah, I'm kind of feeling on the same page. I have to admit, I'm really surprised. I like you." You end up sleeping with him and then you never hear from him again. So let's look at that relationship. You have no power over how or when someone will walk away from you. There's nothing you can do to totally protect yourself from that aside from just cutting it off, amputating the relationship. But what you're learning in between and who you're becoming and how you're adjusting your energy and that you're open to a man who maybe isn't sure what he wants, that's okay. A lot of men aren't. I wasn't even sure I wanted to be married. I wasn't sure about my husband, Jeff. It took time, it took dates. The shoe was on the other foot with us. I wasn't sure I wanted him. Um, so that's really what I would do. I would put it more into your heart and let that come through in the dating world. And then make sure you're not over investing in dating. Make sure you're not having like these hour-long phone calls and 2-hour-long epic dates. Make sure you're having like hour-long dates. The first date you just meet for coffee and you're just seeing what this man, because the right man, Jen, for you, he might say one thing and totally do another thing. So remember, a man's words don't really matter. It's his action, how he shows up with that action. So I can see a very laced up type of guy who has a very particular outlook for himself coming into your life, and you just turning his world upside down. And he suddenly got to tell his kids and everyone, "Hey, I've met this beautiful lady and we're getting married next week. Live with it." I can see that happening for you.
Right. Yeah. And everyone listening who
And everyone listening, yes.
yeah, exactly, and I think you brought up such a great point. They could even say the right words and then the actions don't back it up. Like, "Yeah, yeah, I wanna get married," and then 5 years down the road, you're like, "Are we gonna get married?"
Happens all the time. Those
Right,
guys scare me more than the guys who are like, "I don't know what I want," because at least they're being honest. They're, like, willing to lose you. Because they don't know what they want. Now, if a guy's, clearly just out to take your clothes off, you'll know pretty quickly, you'll understand. Then you have to make a decision, well, do I would like to keep this guy around who wants to take the clothes off? It might be nice to have him in a corner pocket while I date these other men, and be sexually exclusive with him, but keep my options open and date others. You can have a lot of different combinations of how your relationships may work or evolve. It's
and
up
I
to you.
think it's good practice for checking in with your how you feel too, because I think when you really check in with how you feel around someone, you know when someone's in that state where they are saying that don't really match the intentions.
Yeah, I mean, in between dating Jeff and we had a couple of breakups. I had a guy who was just always popping back up in my life. He was an Uber driver. He lived with his parents. Everything was great, except I did not want to spend the rest of my life with him. And I was well aware. So he didn't mind. He didn't mind being what I call the tweener, the guy between you and the next guy. He's your tweener. So sometimes it's okay to give yourself a tweener, someone who wants to make love to you and just hang out and spend time with you and be this dependable person in your life, but not the person you want to spend the rest of your life with.
Right. Okay, you mentioned quantum 5. Can you dive into that before we close out? I want you to explain your recommendations on that to everyone?
Sure. Well, I teach all of this in a course, actually, a couple of different courses. I definitely teach it in New Man Manifesto, which is a manifesting course. I teach it in the ABCs to Get Him Back, which is about getting you back and possibly also your man if you've had a breakup. But Fem tools for dating, I teach it very specifically in there. But there are, potentially, I would like for every woman to have 5 men in their life at all times. I have 5 men in my life right now at all times. Even if one is just some imaginary guy or some guy I keep running into at the gym or the coffee shop, I've got other men in my life. So in dating, you always have your number one. There's always one guy that you're really hoping, well, not always, but most of the time. There's this one man that you really wish would either come back or work out with. Then there's the second runner up, guy number two. Guy number two, physically, maybe you're not into him, but he's totally into you. He's showing up, he's available, he's there. Guy number three is maybe a little shorter than what you thought. He has like 5 cats. He doesn't, totally meet that idea of what you wanted in a partner. Then the fourth and the fifth guy are sometimes guys that you're just, you meet a guy for coffee one weekend and then it flakes out, it disappears, or there's the guy that you're chatting with that you're trying to arrange a date with, but it just never happens. So these men can constantly change and change tiers and position. In fact, it's often guy number two or guy number three that ends up becoming the husband,
Hmm.
that becomes the forever partner. And so you have these different men in your life. You're dating them all. You're just dating. I'm dating. I'm just seeing where things go. So if a guy says, "What? How many men are you dating?" Oh, that's a really good question. I'm really curious why you want to know. It's almost always about sex. So dating is different than sexual exclusivity. A relationship, automatically we're in dating, we're past dating, and that comes with sexual exclusivity. But all of these are conversations you need to have. And I have a really good, my inner boy wrote a really good book about this called Sex, Sex, Sex. That's in my VIP library that just breaks down all of these scenarios for you so you can understand the purpose behind your quantum five and how letting these men in and letting these men out of your quantum five, getting used to guys exiting so the right guy can come forth. And I will always have a quantum five. My stepdad is one of my quantum fives. My brother, I have a very good friend who's an artist that I adore. I have an ex-boyfriend that is actually still in my life that I've known since I was a kid. And I have my husband. So you have that quantum five. You always have lots of men in your life. Um, it doesn't have to be a sexual or romantic relationship even to have them in your life.
Mhm. Yeah. I find that a lot of women have a hard time giving any attention to the other 4 because they're so hyper focused on the one. Do you see that?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's always that one guy that we want, but that's that laser focus that actually can push the guy away. It clouds your thinking. You're not open to receiving all options. So now we're in our masculine energy. We're laser focused, we're hyper focused. We have one outcome. It's like a mathematical equation at that point, which is much more of a masculine approach to dating. Then I'm going to lean back and let this unfold. I'm going to be open to more options. I'm going to see what else is out there. I'm going to cast my net wide and see what happens and unfolds.
And in your coaching, when someone has their quantum 5 and then they're moving towards relationship of sexual exclusivity with a partner,
Mhm.
how do you usually transition them while still keeping the other masculine energy in a non-sexual way, obviously similar to like what you just expressed? How do they transition? Do they wait for the man to request that? How does it
You
go
know,
down?
it can go a lot of different ways. So I would say after, a certain number of dates that feels right to you. Again, there's no set rule, but I always tell everyone try your best to just date a man for 3 months because the drugs around the 3 month mark, the good behavior starts to wear off, especially after date five. I can promise you go back through any relationship you've had with a man, you saw the first warning sign within dates 1 through 5.
Definitely.
So you have to date, and if you can, 3 months before you become exclusive. So meanwhile, the guy's going to be going wild for you. He's going to want to be claiming you, and I took my dating profile down. I'm not seeing anyone else, and he'll kind of talk around it, right? And that's where you can say, well, that's amazing. That feels so good that we're dating. It feels good getting to know each other. You don't have to also take your dating profile down. You can tell him, say, I have been in some pretty amazing dating relationships. And then around the 3 month mark, things change. And it would feel so good to just keep dating and getting to know each other. What do you think? I want this to feel good for both of us. And what do you think about this? Or you're dating a guy and dating a guy, and you're like, when's he going to mention something about us? And that's when you can go to him and say, the past few months have felt wonderful. Where do you see us going? I'm really curious. 9 times out of 10, the guy will say, well, we're dating. We're hanging out. Yeah, you're my girlfriend. Oh, I'm your girlfriend. Okay. So are we, sexually exclusive then? Or after the first time you sleep with him and he goes in to sleep with you the second time. And this is what I talk about in Sex, 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 that ebook. He comes in to sleep with you that second time. You go, wait a minute. The other night felt amazing, but I only have regular sex with someone that I'm in an exclusive relationship with. Some guys will go, oh, you're trapping me now. Okay, yeah, we're in a relationship. Sure. Okay. Well, before we cross that ground into relationship, can we talk about a couple of things here? And this is where you talk about the terms and conditions. If we're in a relationship, how often are we dating? When do I get to meet your kids? Do we vacation together? Who pays for all the dates? You begin having these conversations that let him know that you're not just going to tell me I'm in a relationship with me and sleep with me a couple of times a week and then get tired of me a month later. Like, we're going to have these conversations. We're going to be able to ask each other the difficult questions. And when you're with the right guy, you'll notice that it just syncs up really, really perfectly, very naturally. There might be a little resistance at first, which is natural. Remember, men don't want to be caged. They want to feel free. But then you're also saying, like, well, I don't know what I want. I'm not really sure. This would feel good. You're able to express yourself. It's a big, curious experiment. Did I answer your question with that?
So much. I think it helped everyone because, I mean, all we really have is the current moment. So all we can do is feel how we feel now, and everything else is words, future forecasting, all the things that none of us
Mhm.
control or really have any desire to control if we come from a place of curiosity. So, no, you're such a wealth of information. I feel like I could talk to you forever, and I
Yeah, I've loved being on your show, and I want to just add one last final thought to this.
you.
Is that more often I meet the woman who is hanging on to a man who's breadcrumbing her
Mm.
and giving her, and they're so in love with this breadcrumb
Set up the
relationship.
scenario. Set up the scenario of the breadcrumbing.
Yeah, so it's a man that maybe you dated very consistently for anywhere from three months to a year. And then there's a falling out of some sort, a backing away from the relationship, usually initiated by him. And then there's a slow restart. So what he's doing is he's keeping you in his quantum five,
Mhm.
and he's occasionally reaching out to you. You're the pinky finger now, or maybe the ring finger. He's occasionally reaching out to you, and you're latching on to him because he's actually your quantum number one. And so I find women in this situation, and that's where we go into the world of walking away and why walking away is so powerful. So I'll make sure to link my blog about why walking away works, because then we go into this other area, that the rules to quantum dating. terms and conditions no longer apply. We're in a different place now. Too much time has gone by in that relationship, and you're just being breadcrumbed. Um, so I'll make sure and include that link for your readers to keep learning, your listeners to keep learning.
We will, because there's so much from, the beginnings of the relationship, how to maintain a healthy relationship, all about sex, everything. So yeah, how can people find you just if they want to connect on social?
Sure. Well, I'm at Adrienne Everheart on Instagram, and Everheart Coaching is my website. And of course, I have a popular YouTube channel. You can find me just searching my name. And I have courses, an ebook on how to speak to men. And I'll also be offering a feminine energy sorry, let me say that again. I'll also be offering a feminine energy reboot. It's like a refresher, reset on all things feminine energy, whether that's better sleep, finding your feelings, feeling better in your body, whatever it may be. This is a very, very short 3-part course, but I break it down very succinctly so that women can just go back to these videos, listen to them, and get back in touch and feel reconnected with their feminine energy, which is where all of this begins. All of this work begins. Knowing how to say the right thing, having this timeline or protocol in place. It's actually based on typically how women are feeling. And so you can do all of this yourself once you get that clarity into what you're feeling.
Yeah, I love that, Adrienne. Thank you so much. I'm just like, I get mesmerized when you talk. And I keep going back to one of the reasons I have you on here. And I really want to emphasize with everyone that relationships are so important. It's one of the main reasons we do everything in this world. And studies show that elevated oxytocin actually helps thicken the collagen in our skin and makes us look more vibrant and youthful. So whether it's from hugging and cuddling or orgasms, like we want to boost that oxytocin. So it all connects. It all connects. So having healthy relationships, you really do get a glow as opposed to being number pinky and being breadcrumbed. You just don't,
Right.
you don't radiate as well.
It it literally sucks the life out of you. It sucks that life force. And I often get people they can't believe my age sometimes, and I'm like, "Yeah, this is really my age." And they're like, "How did you stay so young?" And I can't necessarily say have lots of sex, but I think it had something to do with it. But but also just lots of orgasms, lots of, feeling good, bubble baths, doing things that I love, being out in nature, doing what I truly wanted to do. So important to how you look and feel. And I didn't know that about the skin, the thickening and the collagen. That's amazing.
Yeah, with oxytocin. Well, and that's it. It's living in your bliss. And for women, women have an improved lifespan or a longer lifespan on the quality of their orgasm. So we're not saying go have random
Ooh.
sex with a bunch of people, have a partner you can trust who honors you, because everyone listening here, you deserve to be honored and cherished.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
thank you for giving us tools. We appreciate you, Adrienne.
I love that. I want to speak more about that part. I think that's really, maybe next time we're together, we can talk a little bit more about sex and the science behind all of that. That would be amazing.
Yes, let's do it. To be continued. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
If you're enjoying the Radiance Revealed podcast, please don't forget to subscribe so you'll always know when there's a new episode. And while you're at it, please give us a review, as that helps others to find this podcast. And if you want to connect with me, please visit my website, drjenhaley.com, or you can find me on Instagram at drjenhaley.
Hello, everyone. Just a friendly reminder that this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. The statements and views expressed on this podcast are not medical advice. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility made for statements made by guests. Neither this podcast nor any of the information contained within it are a substitute for care by a qualified medical professional. This podcast is provided with the understanding that it does not constitute medical or professional advice or services. If you are looking for help in your journey, please seek out a qualified medical practitioner.